What's up, everybody? My name is Tim Ruswick, and today we're talking about how to make losing feel less bad or make it feel more bad, depending on what you want the player to feel and what you're trying to imprint in the player. We're going to be talking specifically about loss aversion and what that means for kind of you as a designer and what it means for you, for your players, and the kind of things that you set up for them. So loss aversion, I have a definition here because I always get the terms messed up. But it's basically, it refers to people's tendency to prefer avoiding losses to acquiring equivalent gains. So essentially what this means is if someone gives you $5, that's one thing. But if they take $5 away from you, it feels more bad to lose $5 than it feels good to gain $5, if that makes any sense. Hopefully I can kind of describe this as we're doing it. But basically, there's been psychological studies into the idea of how losing impacts us more than gaining something. How you can reward players and give them things in a game context, but that doesn't have the same emotional weight as taking stuff away. And there's been a lot of ways that this has been proven in a lot of different systems. But specifically, I want to talk about gaming because I feel like this is a perfect kind of way to describe how these systems are implemented. So let's use World of Warcraft as an example. One of the designers, again, I'm going to butcher the actual details on this, but they were testing a new experience point system where after you logged in for the day and you did a bunch of stuff and you gained a certain amount of XP, it would stop you. It would cap you and it would cut your XP gains in half, basically. And they wanted to promote the idea that you should do this like every day, not so much like play for 14 hours straight. And that's what they were trying to do. And players hated it. Players like revolted. They were so upset. But they changed the system and they made it to where when you log in, you gain 100% extra of XP for the first 3 levels or whatever it was. But then after that, you go back to normal XP gains. Now, what they actually changed the numbers to where mathematically those two systems were the same, but on a player impact level, on how it emotionally hit the player, it was drastically different because people loved the new system. They were like, hell yeah, we want bonuses. Bonus when I log in, it's great. I love that system. And it's interesting because mathematically they're the same thing, right? Like if you cut something in half, or you just double something up front and then put it back to basics, that's pretty much the same thing. I'm probably butchering the math here because I always do that. But I thought that was really interesting because, like, if mathematically something is the same, why do we feel so much worse when we lose stuff? It's just part of how human psychology works. Another example of this is Clash Royale. Nicole and I play Clash Royale all the time. I really actually hate the game, but Nicole loves it, so she makes me play it with her. There's a ranking system in that game, and it's a similar ranking system to Halo 2 back in the day. But basically, when you win, you gain trophies, and you move up through the ranks. When you lose trophies, and you move down through the ranks. And I've noticed that makes losing feel much more powerful, right? Like in a system where I can just constantly gain XP and keep moving up, that's cool, right? But I don't really care about losing. Yeah, it kind of ends up going in the background for a while, right? But when there's loss, when there's stakes at every game, and you could lose and you could go back down, that's really something I want to avoid because I feel that in my chest and I want to keep playing. I know Halo 2, they had a leveling system through 0 through 50, and they have something very similar. If you win, you go up. If you lose, you go down. And man, I remember countless hours sitting at level 49 and just being like, I'm not really sure I want to go through this today. I'm not really sure I want to do this, because it was just such a real feeling to lose that and go down to like 48. It was... oh my God, it was so ridiculous. And as game designers, right, all these artificial systems, they're just lines of code. They don't really mean anything, but they can create emotional impact in players. And if you're trying to design that kind of impact in a, like, especially competitive PvP, right, it makes perfect sense that there would be wins and losses in a situation like that. But if you want to allow for some higher emotional impact, you can try giving something to a player and then taking it away, or try flipping your default rather than rewarding them on something, maybe taking something away if they lose. If you want the emotional impact, if you want to hit them where it hurts and make them feel that, right? Like if you have a lighthearted game and it's a friendly game and kids are going to play it and all that stuff, maybe this is not the best place to design loss aversion into your game. But if it's an adult game, if it's a game about like those emotional feelings, right? Like Philophobia is a good example. My game, the game is about loss. The whole idea behind the story is Stuart lost his person that he was in love with, and it's just the game starts that way. He just loses everything, and it makes a lot of sense that I would punish the player in a lot of ways by losing things. Because the game is punishing. The whole theme of the game is punishing. Whereas a brighter theme, like something like Spyro the Dragon, is all about collecting, right? It's not necessarily a game that you want to really push it to the player. But I wanted to bring this up because loss aversion is a tool in the tool belt of game designers to really drive things home and to really make sure that the decisions that you make the player make, or the things that you implement in the game, have the emotional weight to it. And avoiding loss is one of those ways that you can give them weight. I know Portal is a perfect example of this as well, where there's the scene with GLaDOS and a companion cube. And throughout the whole level, GLaDOS keeps telling you stories and all kinds of stuff about the companion cube. And it's got little hearts on it. It's different from the other cubes. And so you carry it with you, right? You kind of build this little, interaction with the cube, and it's like becomes a little friend of yours. And at the end, GLaDOS makes you incinerate the cube, like put it straight up in the fire, and bam, like that's it. It's gone. And the feeling that you get from incinerating the cube is different than throwing any random cube in there, right? And that's part of the endowment effect, which is another effect of loss aversion. And it's basically the idea that the more that you use something or react with something or spend time with something, the more you tend to value it. So it's part of loss aversion, but it's a little bit different. And I think this is one of those things that is really, really useful in game design, and I recommend that you check into it. There's a fantastic GDC talk, which I watched, that I will link down below, which goes into detail about all this stuff. And there is a book called Thinking Fast and Slow, which I highly recommend you read. I'm going to reread through that now, because that is something that I read a long time ago, and I forgot a whole bunch about it. But it was a fantastic book when I read it, especially for marketing, understanding how that stuff worked. So I hope you found this useful. I did my best to kind of explain this information and get it out to you. I hope I did a good job. My name is Tim Roswick. Leave me your comments down below if you have anything to add to this. If you have any questions about it, I'll be happy to answer it. But once again, my name is Tim Roswick, and I'll see you again tomorrow.